But yeah, this looks really promising. Since the wins are 3R, you can kind of see just with a small sample size, we kind of have these jumps in the equity curve, but slowly kind of growing over time. So yeah, I think, we're going to have some people trickle in, but we can probably go ahead and get started. I'll kind of do a brief intro who I am for those of you that are new to these. And then Nick, before we get this going over the strategy, I'll have you share that link in a second. So, but yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. For those of you that haven't been on one of these before, I'm Ox Fibonacci. You'll see me in the Discord. I'm the replay pro, kind of help test out a bunch of different strategies, research strategies, and then I'm going to basically explain it to you and then show you how to backtest it in FX Replay. So yeah, I've been backtesting in FX Replay almost a year and a half at this point. I think I've tested almost 3,500 trades, so I've used it a lot and pretty good at using it and basically building and optimizing trading edges. So hopefully we can dive into the strategy today and learn about it and see if it's something you guys might want to test yourself. If nothing else, hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about trading and kind of how to backtest in general. So before I dive into the strategy, Nick, you want to go ahead and share the strategy PDF, and while you're doing that, I'll get my screen shared.
Sure. And if anyone has questions throughout the present session, I will do my best to interrupt when there's a good point in a lull in it, and then ask the questions. Usually Ox Fibonacci is able to get them and see them when he takes a minute to look up, but yeah, we'll try and get to all of them as much as we can throughout. But yeah, at the end we'll do any questions, lingering questions.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, do you want to go ahead and share that strategy PDF link, and then I'll start going over it?
It's over in the offer section if anyone isn't sure where to look.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we're going to be going over this Williams alligator strategy today. It's similar. I don't know if for those of you that have looked into the previous streams we've done, I did a 3-minute moving average strategy on gold in New York session probably a couple months ago at this point. And this is pretty similar to it, but has a kind of few updates since then. And then today specifically, I'm going to be testing it on EU, EURUSD during a London session to see if we can get some good results with it. So it's one of the simpler strategies that I've researched. So especially for those of you that are newer or just have a hard time, if there's 20 different confluences and multiple charts, this is definitely a more simple strategy that I think is great for beginners, but also it could work if you are a little more advanced. Maybe you can kind of trade it on multiple pairs at the same time and get even better results. So overall, we're going to be essentially trading on the 3-minute time frame. So far, we've looked at the New York session, and today we're going to be looking at London. You could potentially backtest this on really anything, indices, gold, or forex. Again, I'm focusing today on EU. And we're going to have 3 indicators on our chart: the 200 EMA, which we'll see in some examples, the Williams alligator indicator, which is basically it's got 3 different moving averages all in itself, and we're going to kind of adjust some settings on that, so we just have 2 of them. And then lastly, you're just going to want a session indicator to show whichever session you're trading. I always find it's helpful to have a session indicator to make sure you're only trading the hours that you want to. Otherwise, pretty simple rules for the strategy. The first one is that you need the 3-minute, 15-minute, and 1 hour to all be in alignment, kind of with the 200 EMA. So if price is above all of them, we're going to be looking for longs, and if it's below all of them, we're going to be looking for shorts. Pretty simple. Entry and stop loss. I'll probably show you guys kind of a couple examples. It'll be easier than just reading this text. But essentially what we're going to be looking for these trades is, okay, so we've got our first check that all 3 timeframes are below the 200 EMA. The kind of next thing we're going to be looking for is basically the price to come in between the 5 SMA, which is this green line, and the 8 SMA, the red line. And I'll just show you guys real quick in FX Replay. So this Williams alligator indicator, when you first put it on your chart, it'll kind of look like this. There's basically 3 moving averages. And for this kind of simplified version, we're just going to come in here and deselect the jaw so that we only have these, I guess, the teeth and the lips. I usually just refer to them as the 5 SMA and 8 SMA. You could also just, teeth and lips if you want, but that's basically the indicators that we're going to have on here. So going through An example, basically, as prices kind of following the trend in the direction you want, so you're looking for a pullback kind of in between these two moving averages, and no wicks past the 8 SMA. So really just want like a pretty good reaction to kind of this area. And then for our entry, all we're waiting for is a closure kind of back below the I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see better. We're looking for a closure kind of back on the underside of this 5 SMA right here, and that'll be our entry, and using the recent kind of high as a stop. And as I was testing, it looks like targeting about 3R looks pretty good. Don't really need to do necessarily anything more complicated than that, and looks like maybe going break even after about 2R. Looks like it might work pretty well for EU. So pretty simple strategy, to be honest. Like I said, make sure that all 3 timeframes are in alignment on the 200 EMA. Look for kind of a pullback into the zone, and then if it closes kind of back on the other side, that's your entry. So that's kind of the basics of it. I'll go over a couple additional rules. So I'd mentioned take profit and trade management. We're going to aim for 3R with stops after 2R. Most likely won't trade during high impact news. I'll be honest, I personally trade New York sessions, so I'm not as familiar with London news events and like which ones are actually high impact or not. So I might ask you guys if you want me to take certain trades if they're during certain news or not. And then the last thing as I was kind of testing with this, I noticed if the first trade that kind of taps into the 5 SMA is an engulfing candle, those trades are usually a lot lower probability. So what I mean by that is, and again, I'll kind of zoom in so you can see this a little better. If we have this 5 SMA, kind of as I was showing you guys in that example, we've got this kind of 5 SMA we're coming into. As we're kind of coming into it, if we have a big engulfing candle that is the first candle to touch that line, then it's going to make this trade a lot lower probability, and we're not going to take that trade. So I'll change it to green so it lines up with the Williams alligator. But yeah, it's basically this kind of first line from the Williams alligator indicator. So that's really the only like unique rule, is if we have an engulfing candle where that like basically closes below the kind of wick low and basically the entire candle, then we're not going to take those trades. And I'll show you guys a few more examples, but that's pretty much the kind of bread and butter of the strategy. Again, I'll show you guys a couple long examples here. So again, we had, in this case, all 3 timeframes were above the 200 EMA, so we were looking for longs. We had price test into this 5 SMA. It wasn't an engulfing candle because this was a red candle. So again, engulfing candle is kind of always the different candle color. And so we got to tap into this zone. There was no wicks past the 8 SMA, and then we got a closure back above the 5 SMA. So that's our entry. We'll use a kind of recent low as our stop, and we targeted out 3R. Same thing happened again a little bit later. We tapped into the zone, closed back above it with a nice green candle here for our entry, and then targeted out 3R. So again, pretty simple strategy. It doesn't have trades every single day because you're looking for kind of trending market conditions, which looking at all 3 timeframes kind of helps with that. But yeah, with that, let me know if there's any additional questions. But yeah, that's kind of it. And I've got in this strategy PDF that's in the offer section, I've got kind of a checklist that you guys can follow as well to make sure that you're following it. So yeah, we're going to be doing a little backtesting for this strategy, and basically all I have here on FX Replay, I've got my 3-minute time frame, kind of my large chart here, which has the 200 EMA, this yellow line, this Williams alligator indicator, and all I did is kind of turn off the jawline. I only care about these kind of 2 other ones. And then I have this session indicator by FX Replay, which if I kind of scroll back a little bit, you'll see it's basically going to help me see when kind of London session is. And I think for today, I just did like the first 5 hours of London. So like from basically 8 to about 1, basically when the London Stock Exchange opens for the first kind of 5 hours. That seemed like a good amount of time to be trading every day. So that's what we're going to be running today. So, and then, yeah, a couple other charts here. I have them kind of smaller because I'm really only referencing the price and their 200 EMAs. So I have the 15-minute chart up here and 1-hour chart here. And the only indicator I have on them is the 200 EMA to just kind of see that all 3 of these need to be aligned on that kind of where price is in relation to their 200 EMAs. So let me know if there's any questions from kind of the initial how I have this set up. But yeah, let's dive into some backtesting. So I kind of picked a random point in time when I was doing this. I just kind of happened to pick, I guess, November of 2022 and started testing around a little bit with this yesterday. I do see that we have some economic news here coming up. So I actually want to ask you guys in the chats, for those of you that trade London, are any of you familiar if these ECB President Lagarde's speeches are usually high impact or not? Or I guess just let me know in the chat if you guys think if we get a trade around here, if we should take this trade or not. I'll kind of do whatever you guys think. Otherwise, we can just avoid it. But since I don't trade London session as much, I'm less familiar with how impactful some of these London news events are. Again, I think as you guys are more familiar with London, I'll just say kind of my contacts with New York, there's a lot of like red folder high impact news events that show up for a New York timeframe, but I really honestly at this point only avoid like CPI, FOMC, non-farm payroll, when Powell's got his big speeches. There's like kind of 3 or 4 super high impact events that I really just avoid, but the rest, like, I don't care that much about. So we're going to assume this speech is less impactful because we got someone that says we want to take it. So yeah, we'll kind of see if we get a potential trade with this. So we've now tapped in between these zones. So as long as we don't get a wick above this kind of 8 SMA, then we should be good. So as I zoom in, it looks like the wick did not go above this kind of upper SMA, but we also haven't closed quite below this 5 SMA yet. So I'm going to need one more candle to go below. And as we got there, as we see there, we did close below it. So we're below all 3 200 GMAs. So we're looking for shorts. We've got a visit into the zone followed by a close below it. So we would do a market entry at this point, targeting out 3R right there. I'm going to place the order, and I like to use 1% of initial balance when I do these. That's just kind of what I've always done, and it works well to analyze the analytics. And really the only other thing after you select your position tool and hit place order is I'm going to come in here, go auto break even after 2R. That's kind of what I was seeing works well with EU, and then we'll let it play out. So I can go either candle by candle with this kind of single button right here, or I can change the speed and play these kind of a candle at a time. And I do want to slow down a little bit because I think there was another trade with this setup as well. So we haven't hit our take profit yet, but as we see here, we have, I went one candle too far. We have another potential trade from this strategy. So this next candle right here, we also tapped into this zone and closed back below it. So we have another potential trade right here. We kind of wicked into it and then reversed pretty nicely. So targeting out 3R right about there. So place order, our stops are already break even with this first trade. So we're basically risk free on this first trade. So I'm pretty comfortable letting this other one play out. But we'll go auto break even after 2R. And then we'll let this one play out. So hit take profit on the first one, and then hit take profit on the second one. So 2 really nice trades. This kind of first day of the session, I got kind of lucky, I guess, with the day I picked, but really nice trending environment. That's what you want to see. There was actually even another trade up here, I guess, kind of before London opened, kind of, I guess, yeah, in between that you could have also caught, but it was outside of the hours that we want to trade. So I typically like to kind of pick certain trading hours that you can consistently show up in the charts each day, and that's kind of what you want to backtest, because that's kind of when you're going to be trading. So even though there was a potential trade right here, I wouldn't have recorded it in my backtest if I'm only planning to trade kind of during these hours. So that's kind of why I like to have the session indicator as well to see that. So yeah, let me know if there's any questions as we kind of go through more examples, but I'm pretty sure that was probably the only trade on this day. As you can see, we did come back up into this zone, but we ended up having price kind of getting back above this 8 SMA, and that's kind of an invalidation. I'm no longer interested in shorts unless we kind of continue this trend down. So I'm pretty sure we kind of just bounced a little bit, and there were no additional trades on this day that kind of met our criteria. So I'll use the go-to feature up here. I have it set to going to basically 4 a.m. New York time, which is kind of the time period that London starts at this point. And then I'll just go to London session and it'll jump me forward to kind of the start of the next day. And I just have this set to my chart set to London so that I'm looking at kind of when London market opens. So let's see here. We have we're still below all of the 200 EMAs. The 3-minute is kind of pretty close to it, so we want to make sure we continue to move to the downside, otherwise there just won't be any trades. And as you can see, the 3 minutes kind of chopping around this 200 EMA. So this entire day, I'm not interested in any trades. And the nice thing with this strategy is that you can, if you're trading this live, you can actually set alerts on these moving averages. So like say, for example, this day, I'm not interested in anything until this 3-minute price kind of comes back below this 200 EMA. So I could just right click this on TradingView and kind of set an alert if price kind of comes back against it. So you don't have to constantly watch the chart. And then similarly, if I was kind of following this along, you could set an alert on this 5 SMA to see if when price comes back up and tags into it. And that could also kind of get you alerted to potentially look for the trade as well. So not only is it simple, but I think it's pretty easy to set alerts for this strategy if you want to like kind of help watch the charts as well. So yeah, again, no trades because we don't have alignment between all 3 of these time frames, and you'll see that quite a few days, which they're just not going to be alignment on all of them. So this next day, we had some news a little bit earlier in the session. I actually think I went a little bit too far. Let me adjust these settings now. I think there might have been New York daylight savings, so you gotta kind of adjust the go-to at that point. But yeah, so I got a question from Jakob. Would this work on New York? You can test it. Today specifically, I'm testing EU on during London session, but I've tested a variation of this strategy on gold during New York, and it also looks pretty promising. So this is something you could potentially test on indices, gold, forex, kind of within whatever session you're trading, and just get some data and see if it's something that works. But today specifically, I'm just looking at EU during the London session to see how that works out. So on this day, we are now above all 3 of the moving averages, so we're good to look for longs. I got to see if price kind of comes back into these moving averages, which we don't get for a while. And then right there, we have a trade. And so I see Rohit asked, what's the success rate you've seen with this strategy? We'll take a look at the analytics when we're done and just kind of see, at least from a small sample size, what we are kind of seeing initially. So we have another potential trade here. We got a little wick into this in between the zones and a nice closure back above it. So I'll go ahead and give this one a shot. By market, we'll go to auto break even after 2R. I believe, yeah, this one ended up being a quick loss. But shortly thereafter, we had another potential attempt. So we had price come kind of back up and we closed above it. So we had one attempt here, and then we still have not had any wicks below this 8 SMA, and we got another kind of closure up here. So I'll give this one a shot as well, using the recent low and target out 3R. There, place order. We'll go auto break even after 2R. See how this one plays out. Kind of chopped around. Unfortunately, had another loss. So 1 win, 2 losses. But the nice thing with a 3-to-1 risk to reward is we're still up 4R. We had we made 6R in the previous session, so had a couple losses this day, but we're still up nicely so far since we've been testing. So I don't believe there were any more trades this session. Kind of just chopped around the rest of the today. So we'll go to the next day. It looks like we have kind of conflicting. We're going to need the 3-minute to get above this 200 EMA before we're interested. Otherwise, we do not have alignment in all 3. So yeah, probably no trades on this day because as you can see, we were above the 200 EMA on the 1 hour and 15 minute, but the 3-minute was kind of having a hard time getting above it, and ultimately just never had that trending environment that we want to see for this strategy. And so I got a question from Jakob. Why don't you place the stop loss on the SMA instead of the bottom wick? So any kind of optimizations or adjustments to your stop loss and take profit, my recommendation is to start with kind of a base model. Maybe you want to test this strategy specifically and just use the recent kind of high and low that you saw, that the kind of strategy PDF mentions. And then if you decide you want to kind of try and optimize the strategy, and maybe you want to use the body instead of the wick hires or any other adjustments, there's a really good optimization video on YouTube, as well as in the Discord, that you guys can see how would the results change if you kind of adjust those things. But I recommend kind of the first time you go through, just using kind of a simple take profit and stop loss, and then you can use the optimizations to really refine it after that point. But that's a great question. Okay, so same thing. We're above it on these 2 time frames. Need the 3 minutes also align, which we now have here. So if we get a setup in between these and a closure back above, we would have a valid trade this day. This one is so close, but technically, following our rules, I have to zoom in really close, but it did not kind of tap into these. So this wouldn't technically be a trade, even though it looks like it, is having a good reaction around the area we want. Doesn't quite meet our criteria yet, but yeah. So, and then this is kind of just another little nuance I want to share with you guys. So we did have a tap into it and a closure back above, but this is a red candle. So I definitely think like the closure needs to be the same color candle in the direction you're going as well. It's kind of like another rule. I'll probably add that to the PDF for you guys too, but just like a little nuance here. I would not take this trade, even though it kind of came into it and closed above, since it was a red candle and not a green candle. So we've got kind of chopping around again. Still waiting for price to kind of get back above the 200 EMA on the 3 minutes, which doesn't look like we get this day. So yeah, there's definitely not trades every day, but the nice thing is you're looking for a very specific environment, and you're kind of just sitting on your hands until you see that, because you want to wait for the highest probability conditions for this strategy, which is like a really strongly trending environment. And again, kind of you can see there's maybe even a few trades with this that you could also, when you're backtesting, see if kind of counter trend trades may also be worth it. We had, at this point, we were still above the 200 EMA on the 1 hour time frame. So this doesn't meet our criteria until, I guess, now that after the 1 hour closes kind of below it. But you could also backtest, and if you start to see really strong price action in line with the trend, and you want to maybe try and take some counter trend trades and see if those work out as well. But today I'm going to stick with the highest probability setups when we have alignment on all 3 time frames. So I wouldn't have recorded any of those. And I actually have a note here. This 1 hour time frame, I usually like to look at the closures. So you can technically see this 1 hour candle is open, hasn't closed yet, and the previous candle didn't quite close below the 200 EMA. So I think it's probably best to like look at the closures for both the 15 and 1 minute time frame to see like if there's alignment or not. But since we hadn't gotten a closure kind of below it at this point, I probably wouldn't have taken this trade either. Just kind of a little note there. So I believe we just kind of moved back up to the upside after this. We did ultimately get a 1 hour closure, so we could have entertained longs at this point, but all of these pullbacks after this point kind of went above that 8 SMA, which, we're not interested in any of those. Let's see where price is on this day. We got a nice reaction. Must have been some big news or something that really shifted things. So we've now shifted trends, and we're back above kind of on all time frames. So we're definitely interested in longs if we get valid setups on this day. So I'll kind of play forward 1 candle at a time. This first one went below the 8 SMA, so I wouldn't be interested in this initial setup, but let's see if we get one a little bit later that matches our high probability setups. All right, not yet. And the reason, again, I'm not taking this one is because there was no closure above, and then we went below the 8 SMA. But right here, we do finally have a valid setup. So we'll give this one a shot right here using a market entry. It's a bit bigger of a candle than I would like, but sticking to the rules, that's kind of what we'll use for this strategy. So buy market, auto break even after 2R. Save it. Unfortunately, had a quick loss on this first one, but we could still potentially see if there's any additional ones because we're still above all 3 of these. So I'm definitely interested in longs. We just, this one got slightly stopped out first. So still okay to enter if we get another valid setup, which we get right here. So let me record this trade real quick. We have a test into the zone and a nice closure back above, which meets our criteria. We are in line with the 200 EMA on all 3 time frames. So I'll do a buy market right here, place order. We'll go auto break even after 2R and see how this one plays out. Awesome. Nice. Very quickly to our take profit, like a 9-minute trade, I think. So if you guys are impatient, I think this is a pretty good strategy because you usually, I think that's we'll see the analytics later, but the time for these trades is usually pretty short relative to like using some higher time frame strategies. So let's see. We have another one right here. So again, I'm totally comfortable continuing to take these because I'm just looking to kind of find continuation moves with the strategy. So we came back into the zone, closed back above it. So I'll do a market entry here, targeting out 3R. Place order. Auto break even after 2. See how this one plays out. Nice. So we had 1 loss and 2 wins on this day. Overall collected 5R. But this is exactly the kind of type of environment you want to see for this strategy, like a very strong trending environment where you're just looking to kind of catch continuations with the moving averages. It's kind of the whole basis of the strategy. So let's see, we're up about 9R so far since we started backtesting this, which is pretty great since we've only been testing for about a couple weeks at this point. We do still have an uptrend. We're above the 200 EMA on all 3 time frames. So let's see here. We don't have any valid trade here because we kind of closed back below or wicked back below the 8 SMA. So yeah, the nice thing again, this wouldn't have been a valid trade, but it's I guess a good example of the engulfing rule that I showed you guys. If kind of the first candle that taps into the 5 SMA is an engulfing candle, I was noticing that those trades like almost never work out. So because it's an indicator of kind of strong momentum against the direction you're hoping to trade, which makes sense. And so like if there would have been a green candle after this that closed above, I would not have taken this trade because it kind of invalidated that engulfing rule that I mentioned to you guys. So let's play forward a little bit, see if we get any other valid setups. Probably not on this session, because now we're starting to kind of have conflicting trend with the 3-minute versus the other time frames, which is fine. Let's go to the next day. We're back above all 3, so looking for longs here. There is some news a bit later in the day. Let's see, GDP a bit later, so we'll try to avoid that, but that's maybe after we're done trading. We'll kind of see, keep an eye on it, make sure we're not entering any trades right around it. So no taps into the zone yet. All right, and right there we got one. So we've tapped to the zone, closed back above it with a green candle. So we'll do a market entry at that candle close, targeting out 3R. Right about there. Place order, go auto break even after 2R. And this one's taken a little bit, ended up being a loss, unfortunately. So let's see if we have any more this day. We're still good. What's our time? So we kind of came into this news. We weren't any active trades, so that's fine. Let's see, we got a couple hours left in the session we're trading. Let's see if we have any other taps into this. Okay, so I believe this one, let me see. The first candle, this is an engulfing candle, but it wasn't the first one that tapped in the zone. This is this one right here is technically kind of the one that tapped in next. So I would probably take this trade. Maybe just say it's a little lower probability because there is that engulfing candle. It just, if we're following the rules specifically, it technically wasn't the first candle. So this would probably be a valid trade otherwise. So 3R would be all the way up here. Place order. Auto break even after 2R. And as expected, it was definitely a little lower probability. Again, we can also kind of play around with the times that we're trading. I think I had this set to go basically from 8 to about 1. And you might find that as you get larger data, like Matt just shared in the Discord, with the analytics within FX Replay, you can see really good data on kind of the performance by hour. So you may find over time that it's better to trade kind of the early trades versus later. Just something as you get larger sample size, you can kind of get more data on. But that's probably it for this day. So coming to the next day, again, still in a nice uptrend. So we can see if we have any potential longs here, which we do right here. We did close right back above it. So I'll do a market order after this candle closes, targeting out 3R right there. Place order by markets, auto break even after 2R. Let's see how this one plays out. Another loss, but actually, yeah, so just a loss right there. A couple losses in a row. We're definitely targeting 3R. This isn't going to be like a 90% win rate strategy, but if we can get anything, you know, even close to 50%, we should have a nice equity curve with this. So there's definitely going to be some losses, but I'm okay with that because our wins are going to be much larger than our losses. So right here, we have another good setup. Came back into the zone, closed back above it with no wicks below the ASMA. So I'll do a market order at this point, targeting out 3R. Buy markets, auto break even after 2R. And see how this one played out. So really close to our stop loss. Would have been sweating for sure if I was in this live, but did not quite stop us out. And then ran to our take profit really nicely. And yeah, stop me at any point if you guys have any questions, but this is a pretty simple strategy, hopefully. So hopefully you guys are following along pretty easily. Got a nice uptrend again. I may have missed this trade. Did we wick into it? I got to zoom in really close on this one. Oh man, that's literally like right on it. I'll probably go ahead and record it. It's about as close as you're gonna get to coming into the zone or not. So I'll kind of replay back to here, and we'll go ahead and record this one as well. So we had a tap into the zone and a nice reaction to it. We're still above on all 3 time frames, so we're good to look for longs. So I'll do a market entry at that candle close. Target out 3R. Break even after 2R. So we're break even now and nice TP. So yeah, if again, like I'm kind of doing my best to follow this as mechanically as possible. So, you know, if it does not tap this 5 SMA at all, then I'm generally not interested. But that's where alerts could be helpful as well. Like if I had set alert on this, it would have kind of pinged me in TradingView as soon as this level was hit. So kind of could be helpful for that. All right, so this is a doji. It's technically green. It's very barely green, but we'll give this one a shot as well because it does kind of align with what we want otherwise. Place order. So buy market, auto break even after 2R. Oh, nice 2 wins in a row. So yeah, both of these are kind of exactly what we want to see, like a very strong reaction to this moving average in line with our high time frame levels. And we're simply just trying to look for kind of base hits over and over, and that our wins are going to be bigger than our losses. So let's see if we have any other trades. Another one right here. So we'd have a buy market at this point, targeting out 3R. It's a little further take profit than the others, so this one maybe a little lower probability, but let's see how it plays out. All right, so an instant loss on this one, but 2 wins and a loss. Happy collecting 5R in this session since the wins are so much bigger than losses. And now it looks kind of where we're chopping around a bit. The 15-minute is now kind of close to the 200 EMA, so don't have alignment on any of the time frames. And again, could have some potential counter trades when the 15-minute, maybe when the 15-minute like first, I guess is kind of crossing, you could potentially look for some counter trades just from what I'm seeing, because we've had at least a couple of days now where that's happened. But I would definitely say overall, probably larger sample size. These are going to be lower probability if you don't have alignment on all 3 time frames. So yeah, probably no additional trades on this day because we don't have alignments. Now we are back above on all 3. So we could potentially look for longs. We've got some news here, either president's speech. That's all right. And now we are above all 3 again. So we can look for longs. Got So this is another great example. I don't know if there would have been a valid trade, but yeah, we did another example where the first candle that tapped into the zone was engulfing. So I would not have taken this trade even if it closed kind of back above here. So we are back above, but no, kind of the EMAs are kind of crisscrossing back and forth. So we don't have that nice fluid trending environment that we want to see yet. My guess, probably no trades this day because we're kind of just ranging. Now we are starting to kind of break out of it. So let's see these last kind of 30 minutes if there's any additional trades. No, not quite. It's fine. We basically avoided this ranging chop all day, and that's kind of the goal of this strategy is to avoid a lot of that, which is fine. Okay, big trending market to the downside now. So we're looking for shorts. Okay, this is a good day. There's multiple trades that had that engulfing criteria that I'll show you guys as we're going to go through this day. So let me kind of see where the trades would have been. Okay. So I'm going to come a little further. Okay, so first trade here, we had a valid setup for the reasons that all the time frames are in alignment on they're all below the 200 EMA. We had a test in the zone and a closure back below it. However, this first candle that tapped into the zone was an engulfing candle. It kind of engulfed to this entire previous candle and closed above the wick high. And as I was kind of testing around with this yesterday, I noticed that these specifically are a lot lower probability than the other ones because you're seeing that there's pretty strong momentum against the direction you're trading. So that's kind of a reason we won't take this. I'll go over a couple more examples. I think there were actually 3 this day. So here's another one. We had a engulfing candle. That was the first candle. And as you'll see, it would have also been a loss. So both of these would have been losses. And then lastly, I think there's one last one. Another engulfing candle that closed in here. So just adding this simple invalidation rule of not taking trades if the first candle that taps into the 5 SMA is engulfing just saved us from 3 losses. And there's a lot more as well. I just noticed that these are a lot lower probability. So something you can kind of play around with if there's any additional confluences, but it's also like the simpler you can make it, the better. But this does seem like a really important rule. And this is a great day to kind of demonstrate why that it's a lot lower probability to take these trades. So I got a question from Jakob in the chats. Could you dive into the risk management for this strategy? So while I'm backtesting it, I generally pretty much always, I'll just put position tool right here. I pretty much always use 1% of my initial balance while I'm backtesting. So this means I think for $100,000 account, I'm risking like $1,000 per trade. And I generally do that for backtesting because when I look at the analytics, every percent that I make is 1R. So if I make 8% in a month, that's easy for me to say, okay, I made 8R that month, 2R that month, 3R that month. So 1% of initial balance is just easy for me to kind of take a look at the analytics. But when I actually start, after I've backtested this, these strategies really thoroughly, and I'm ready to actually take a prop firm challenge or something, I have a video. I think it's called a discussion on risk management. It's a guide in the Discord. It's also a video on the YouTube, and I kind of break down this risk of ruin tool and how you can input the data from your FX replay analytics into the tool, and it'll kind of give you some really good suggestions for what risk makes sense based on the data from your strategy and also like the parameters for the prop firm you're trading. So I recommend kind of looking at that resource for that. But yeah, it really depends on the performance of your strategy, what the win rate is, what the average R per trade is, and then also like, what drawdown to the challenges you're taking have, is it 5%, 10% or anything like that. So hopefully that answers your question, but there's a really good resource out for that more. All right, so we're above, yeah, we have kind of conflicting price action now. We're basically right on top of the 200 EMA on the 1 hour time frame. So I want to see a 1 hour closure above before I start looking to take anything. Actually, we did get a 1 hour closure this previous candle. So we have 1 hour and 3 minute alignment, 15 minute, not quite yet though. So I probably wouldn't take this one just because of that. It might work out. But until we get this 15 minute to also be above, then technically we don't have alignment in all 3 time frames. And I got, probably just a good reinforcement right here. If you would have taken this, you would have just barely gotten stopped out before the move. So, but definitely better for higher probability to wait for all three of them to be in alignment. So I'm kind of just playing forward to see, wait until all three of them get on the same page. We haven't had a 15-minute closure above the 200 EMA yet, so still not really interested in any trades. And there may just not be anything this day, which is fine. Again, I'm trying to avoid a lot of the kind of stop hunting. I want to wait till we're in a really nice trending environment, which is much more like this. This is what we want to see. Again, there's already 2 potential trades from this. So again, I mean, as we were testing this, maybe you could start 1 hour before London session opens. There could potentially be some additional trades during that time that you could test as well. But as we go forward now, we can kind of see if there's any that line up with what we're looking at today. We got a pretty swift reaction to the downside, but all I care is that I identify a pattern that's easily identifiable and repeatable, and that's all I'm looking for. So still waiting for the 3 minutes to kind of get back above. Looks like there were potential 2 trades here. Let's see, did we get a closure back above? Not quite. We haven't closed back above this 5 SMA yet. Now we have. So we have 1 potential trade here, and then it looks like there's a second trade after that's had an engulfing entry. So we'll go auto break even after 2R for this one, and see how this one plays out. So we're auto break even now, and this one ended up being a break even trade. And here's based on this note, again, you can kind of see there was a potential setup with this one where we had price to visit into the zone, didn't go below the 8 SMA and closed above. However, the first candle that kind of tapped into the zone was engulfing, and as you'll see, I think this one would have been a loss. It was also pretty near this news. So for that reason, yeah, we didn't take that trade. So go to the next session. So we're above on all the 1 hour and 15 minutes. We need the 3 minutes to get above as well before we are interested in any trades. Kind of just chopping around on the 3 minutes, so likely no trades this day. Let's go to the next day because this is kind of after I'm trading. Let's see. So we're above it on the 1 hour and 15. So again, looking for longs if we can get above, which we did here. Let me see. This could have been a valid trade. Did not quite tap into the 5 SMA, so I wouldn't have taken any trades here. And then this, I did actually miss recording this trade here. So let me go back. It would have been a loss, but I'll go ahead and record it so that our analytics is accurate as possible. So right here, again, we're above it on all 3 time frames. We've got a wick into the zone and a closure above it. So again, you guys could see this one's already lost, but I'm going to make sure that I try to record every trade that I would have taken to make sure I have as accurate of analytics as I can. I don't need to worry about the auto break even because I know this one was a loss. So we'll move this one over and see if there's any additional trades that we can look for while we're trading this. Nothing there. Okay, and then we kind of moved back to the downside. So maybe just that one loss today. So we still have a little bit of time left in this session. But yeah, we're kind of just chopping around the 3 minute SMA. No clear trending environment that we want to see. Could have had a potential short here. Again, these counter trades, you could try to, maybe kind of identify some other criteria, recently after crosses or something, but could potentially have a counter trade, but it's not fully in alignment with the rules we have. So yeah, that's probably it for this day. We've got conflicting EMAs. We're above on the 1 hour and 3, but below on the 15. So I need to kind of see alignments, and we have that here. So now we have a closure on the 15 minute above the 200 EMA, and all the others are in line. So we're going to look for longs if we get something that meets our criteria. We really kind of took off after that. Haven't had any taps into the zones yet. Could still look for something if we get a visit to the EMA or 5 SMA, which we got right there. Sorry, I went one candle too far. So again, we do have an engulfing candle, but it was not the first one that tapped in the zone. So this would be a valid trade for all the other reasons. we're going to do a market entry at this point, targeting out 3R right there. Place order, auto break even after 2R. And a really nice win. Kind of wicked right to our take profit. We have another potential trade, and since we already have collected this one, I think I'd probably be comfortable taking this. So there is another trade kind of that populated right after this. We wicked in the zone and closed back above it. So again, I could have another potential trade right here. 3R. Place order, auto break even after 2R. Okay, quick loss on this one, but we still haven't closed below this 8 SMA, so we could potentially have another attempt at this one right here. So again, we kind of had a first attempt at this one. It didn't work out, but we still have not had price close below this 8 SMA, and we got a closure back above. So for everything else, the rules are valid for another attempt at this one. So we'll go 3R, take profits, pretty aggressive. It's all the way up here. So we'll see if this one works out or not. But I'll place order, auto break even after 2R, and see how this one works out. Oh wow, went right to our take profit. So again, one loss and 2 wins on this day, 5R on the day. And yeah, we're pretty close to the end of the month. So let's go ahead and take a look at the analytics. It's just this button down here at the bottom. You can kind of click on that. So overall, it looks like, again, pretty small sample size, only 19 trades. I tested about a month. I really recommend getting this to, 50, 100, even potentially 200 trades if this is something you actually want to trade, and try to, identify, on the high time frames, like a period where there's a really nice uptrend, a period where there's a downtrend, and a period where it's kind of like ranging, or lower volume, maybe like during the holidays or during the summer or something, to really make sure your data is as accurate as possible. But yeah, this looks really promising. Since the wins are 3R, you can kind of see just with a small sample size, we kind of have these jumps in the equity curve, but slowly kind of growing over time. Potentially was a good month for this. November 2022, I think was the year I was testing. Maybe that was just like a really good kind of trending month. So this may not be what you're going to see every month, but at least it looks promising. That it's definitely something we could collect more data and see if this is something that looks good to trade in over time. But yeah, let's look at the average duration of this. It looks like 25 minutes for a win and 17 minutes for a loss. So again, if you're someone that can't sit through a trade for hours, this could be a good one because it's a lot kind of quicker in and outs. We did have 3 losses in a row with the strategy. 50% win rate, you definitely are going to have some loss streaks. So you need to make sure to kind of set your risk per trade appropriately for that. We're definitely like mostly looking at buys. So I think, yeah, the EU was definitely trending to the upside during this. We only took a few sells, so we still have a ton of good data on that yet. And then, yeah, looking at performance by time, looks like maybe this kind of 11 hour, there was only one trade. So again, this isn't super material to make a decision or not. But after you get larger sample size, definitely you can look at this performance by time and maybe identify that certain hours of the day you don't want to trade. Same thing with the days. As you get larger sample sizes, again, I think there's just like 2 trades. But if you see over, 100 trades or 200 trades at a certain day of the week is a lot worse performing than the others. Maybe you can not trade that date as well. But yeah, overall, pretty pleased with how this did in this month that I backtested. I'm curious to see if you guys end up backtesting more yourself, what you see with larger sample sizes. But it's a very simple strategy that you could potentially test on indices during New York session, metals during kind of any session. And then, yeah, forex would probably be mostly London or New York session if you trade either of those. So yeah, we can kind of open it up for any Q&A if you guys have about the strategy, about any of the rules, anything trading related. We've got 5 minutes or so. We can kind of do any Q&A to wrap it up. So feel free to type in the chat if you guys have any questions. But I see a great question in chat. Why don't you trade golds in London session and New York only? So I think I've actually tested gold in. I've done a strategy that I tested it during Asia session, a dynamic range strategy. I've done a strategy basically similar to this strategy. I tested it during New York, and it looked also pretty promising. So I would guess that, you know, you could also trade this during London as well. But again, you need to backtest it and kind of gather that data. And maybe in a future stream, I can kind of test the strategy on it as well. But yeah, I think gold is pretty universal. Like there's always somebody trading gold in all three of the major sessions. So it's one of the few assets that you can kind of trade in any of the sessions. But regardless, you definitely have to kind of spend the time in backtest and get the data to see if it's worth it or not. And similarly, you could potentially test this strategy on other forex pairs as well. GU, USD, JPY, you know, different forex pairs as well. Looks like it's about 1 trade per day. There's usually about 20 trading days in a month. So not definitely some days where there's no trades, some days where there's 2 or 3 trades. Yeah, that's a good question. Does anyone else have any other questions? So I got a question in the chats. What do you do if you get a trade that's within another trade? So we had a couple of those. I think in the PDF I've actually got an example of at least one of them. So in the PDF I have an example of this. Like this first trade was active and another one triggered, and you could simply enter both of them. This one was probably a little easier to take because using the stops to break even after 2R, your risk was already protected on this first trade at this point. So you're really only risking 1R by entering this additional trade. But it definitely looks like, I mean, with these kind of trending environments, you can get multiple trades in a row. I think there were some days we got, you know, 2 or 3 trades in a row. So it does seem like you could potentially take kind of every trade, but maybe if it were me and I was testing this over a large sample size, maybe I would just use a tag that was like maybe like a compounded entry or something like that, or another trade active or something to basically like distinguish that this was a trade while another trade was already running, and just see if like those in particular, you know, are better or worse or pretty similar to the rest of the trades. That would probably be the best way to get the data on that, to see if it's really worth entering them. But just from the limited sample size I tested today, it seems pretty fine to just take kind of any valid setups that this gives you, even if there's already a trade that's open. So yeah, if there's any kind of last questions, feel free to reach out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the strategy. Again, it's definitely one of the simpler ones I've tested. There's really not that many rules to it. It seems pretty easy to follow. The main thing, like I said, is kind of watching out for these engulfing candles that definitely will drop the win rate a lot if you take those. So that's kind of like the one thing to look out for, I guess, with this strategy. But otherwise, it's pretty simple and seems to work pretty well with, you know, multiple assets we've tested. So encourage you guys to kind of check it out, and hopefully, guys, you can see if it works. If it doesn't work, then maybe test a different pair, or yeah, feel free to kind of share some results in the Discord if you guys start testing. But yeah, it seems like a simple strategy you guys can kind of check out and see if it's something you want to trade during whatever session you trade. And yeah, thanks for joining everyone today, and I'll catch you later. See you guys.